Welcome again to DES Module 2, your Diploma in Secondary Education. As I said, if there are those that are doing Module 1 and the Module 2, but I'm not sure at the same time, you must always follow instruction that you are given so that you can able to gain marks. Make sure that you have to follow the command question words so that you can able again to gain high marks. More specifically, as I have to say, this course or this module, it have to do with a lot of comparisons. It always needs you to compare the two. Therefore, make sure that you make use of comparison words and avoid the word "and." Make sure that you look at the mark that are awarded at the end of each question, and you provide the facts that are equal to the marks allocated at the end of your question. Now, Module 2 contains of Unit 9 to Unit 15. And that is what have to be assessed here. It means that when you are doing Module 2, you cannot read Unit 1 to 8. Because Unit 1 to 8 is for those that are doing Module 1. And remember, all these units are in one study guide. Therefore, for Module 2 again, I have to repeat, is Unit 9 to Unit 15. Let us look what is being covered between Unit 9 and the Unit 15. So, topic that we can assess or we can set our question on could be a part that includes the environmental at risk. Environmental at risk, we are looking at the activity or the phenomena that are taking on the environment, like the deforestation, desertification, the global warming, the acid rain, things like drought that just hit Namibia, for example, the previous year, as well as floods that again somewhere they have to say Namibian places are being flooded. So now, most of the time, these phenomena have to be caused by the way that as humans, we have to relate or we have to behave or toward the environment. You make sure that now when you are studying this topic of environmental at risk, you must know the causes of those phenomena. For example, know the causes of deforestation, what causes it. You know the meaning of deforestation, then the solution to deforestation. What should we do in order to prevent this? Simple, because if you look at all these phenomena, they are putting the world on danger, whereby it have to cause or it have to contribute more to natural events like the floods and the droughts, simply because if we cannot really sustain or take care of the environment, at the end we are harming ourselves, but not the environment at all. So now, when you look at the topic that one have to assess here, it means that it's like they are connected to one another. Like if one have to use, for example, energy resources, that's also a topic which is here. Either are using the renewable or the non-renewable resources of energy. At the end, the way that you have to use them, more specifically the non-renewable one, they can contribute either to global warming, and at the same time, they can also cause acid rain. So therefore, you need to read all these topics together and understand how they have to be interconnected with one another, and you must also understand which best resources of energy one can use and how we can conserve them so that or sustain them so that the future generations can also able to use them. Because some of them, they can be finished. And once they are finished up, for example, it means that our future generation, our children, and the environment itself is on danger. You will find some of the animals, some of the plants that's supposed to be used for medicine purposes, for example, they have to just simply disappear and you will never see them again. And it takes years and years for them to be formed so that they can be able to be used again. Now, with this word of technology that are so fast, one need really to consider and need to understand and read these energy resources so that we can able to save the planet, not only for ourselves, but for our children as well. As you do them now, make sure that you understand the advantage of using any types of energy as well as the disadvantage of using it, because it's only when you can able to work on it so that you can able to sustain it as well. From there again, we could come at the topic that have to talk about the employment structure. Employment structure, actually, it have to fall under the industry. So employment structure usually have also to show the level of development a country is. And you need to know how to complete a bar graph that is made in a way that the number of people that are employed in primary, secondary, or tertiary is divided. So which means that this bars is made in the way that they are out of 100%. And everything that you are given must be on 100%. So therefore, you divide them into those equal 3 parts, but make sure that you know how much, you have to be given how much that are employed in, for example, in agriculture, how much are those employed in secondary, like the service provider, and also in the service provider, or secondary that is having the, includes the manufacturing industry, for example. Now, when you are given that bus, the easy way to complete it is like, if they say primary is having 25. In order for you to come out with the secondary, and they say it might be secondary is having 65. You mark out 25 first for primary, then you add 25 to that 65. The total that you are given by 25 and 65 is where you have to stop on that bar graph. Then the remaining one will obviously be tertiary. And like that is now out of 100%. Then you get it right. So now, at the same time, the employment structure, as I said, it have to show you the level of the country's development. Meaning that if a lot of people in a country is employed in agriculture or in primary, it means that that country is a developing country simply because they do not have the machinery or the knowledge of how to process the raw material that they have to take out from the soil. So now, you will find now in a developing country like Namibia, you will have a lot of people that are employed in primary activity, And the primary activity have to do with your agriculture, it have to do with your mining and the forestry, for example. Then you have also a high number, but not more than the primary one, that are being employed in secondary. Now, those secondary are now, they can have now a little bit of the manufacturing industry, like for example at Farfetch Bay, the fishing industry. There are those that have to manufacture, that they have to process. It's a processing industry. You produce something and they put it into a kind of either semi-finished product or a finished product, but not that of a high level. But most of your product that you produce in a primary, you send it outside to countries to manufacture it, and they have again to come and sell them back to you, which is actually be in a high price. So now, you will find again when you come to a tertiary industry, which is a service provider, make sure that again you know what is primary, what is secondary, which is a tertiary. In a developing country, you find now small number of people are being provided in a service provider that we call the tertiary. This is now, for example, the teachers, the doctors, the lawyers, and any other, those people that have to sell in wholesales, and so does the fourth. Those are now, that section will be now having less people. And now with a developed country is the opposite of what is happening in a developing country. Developed country, a lot of people are being employed on tertiary activity, while less people are being employed in primary and the secondary activity. To this one now, we can now give you that bar graph, and we can ask you a question, for example, to identify the country that is developed and the one that is developing. And at the same time, we can now ask you to account on your selection or on your answer, whereby here now, when you have now to account on your answer, you now must say that I said A is a developed country or is a developing country, simple because large number of people are being employed in primary activity. Small number, while small number is being employed in tertiary activity. You make sure that you have to mention the number of people that employed where. You cannot just have to say, for example, high in primary. What is high in primary now? It is people that are employed either in primary, in secondary, or in tertiary. Okay, when you have to study again the industry system, this is where you have your craft industry, your high-tech industry, and the other types of industry again. So we come at the topic of tourism industry. Tourism industry, for example, you need to understand the meaning of the term tourism. And again, you must know how does it contribute to the economy of Namibia, for example. You must know the advantage and the disadvantage of the tourism industry in Namibia. At the same time, you also need to understand why the tourism industry is now growing faster or is increasing in any other developing country. You look to the reasons like people become affluent, booking become easier because you can use your internet, you search up for a place, then you do your bookings. Unlike before, while you needed to do either a telephone call that is costly, or you can now need to write a letter to that specific country so that you can visit. Now these things are made easier because they have to be booked through the internet. whereby one can get to the place easily. You look it on terms of like the destination is easier to reach because people now have to use aeroplane to get there, and the roads that are well updated inside those countries, it make it easier again for people to tour the country and reach to different destinations, as well as the longer holiday that they have to be given. And it's just that people are paid high even, and they can able to travel. That's why the tourism industry is growing faster. But now when you look again, apart from the disadvantage of it, you look at the disadvantage whereby, for example, they could come here and they have to expose our culture in the way that it does not supposed to, by taking picture, and they have to display them in their own country. At the same time, you can find pollution due to the activity that they have to do, destruction of the environment, job that they have to provide is seasonal, for example. It's not the permanent job. All those now have to point out to the disadvantage of the growing of the tourism industry. And again, another thing is the place that local people supposed to visit is remitted from them, simply because they cannot afford to pay the fee in order to go to those places. Those are disadvantages of the growing industry of tourism, simply because people in the tourist industry or tourism industry, they do not really consider the local people. They put the price high, and they did not, like in Namibia, they did not put it at the stage where they have to say that this price have to be paid by the local people, and that this one is for the foreigners or the tourists who came to visit the country. But they put that rate, and that is what have to be paid whenever we are entering a specific place of tourist attraction. And we have plenty of them here in Namibia. At the same time, again, you must know different types of tourist attraction in Namibia. You can also able to identify them in the picture, and you must also know and understand how we can conserve them, so that our future generation again can able to use them, and how, and again for us to keep making income out of it, simply because so far tourism is highest contributor, income contributor to our economy development. So let's continue. Let us look at the management of water resources. Most of the time in the water resources here, we look at the water cycle. How does Namibia gain its water, for example? We look at the activity that we have to do in water, the economic activity, and how they can also destroy the environment, for example. We look at it in terms of how it is being used in a manufacturing industry, how it used in agriculture, which part of industry is consuming a lot of water. We look at in terms of accessibility, percentage of population in Namibia that is access to clean drinking water, for example, how far this water is, and what should we do, for example, if this water is far away from the people, so that we can conserve time in order for time to be diverted to other activities. So these water resources, we also look at in terms of that if, for example, maybe a river that flow at a certain stage, we look at the extraction of this water, and we look also at obstruction of the water, that we cannot, for example, allow to obstruct it, but we must make sure that it have to flow free to reach its final destination. Therefore, make sure that you know how we can able to manage our water resources, how we can able to make it available to our people, because water is a very scarce resources. Here and there you will find people fighting over water. Therefore, we must know how to manage our water so that we cannot run out of it. And when we run out of our water, for example, it means that the economy of the country will also be in danger, simply because, for example, the manufacturing industry, they cannot able to process their product. They need water, and the water is needed everywhere. Therefore, you must study and understand this management of water resources, because most of the time we have to ask also questions based on the water resources, because we want the water to be conserved. Then you come to the part of agriculture. Know and understand the different types of farming system. For example, the different types of farming could be the commercial farming or the subsistence farming. Know the process that are being involved there. Know the percentage, for example, of what agriculture is contributing to the economy of Namibia, and what should we do so that we can improve the food security in Namibia by introducing different types of agricultural schemes in Namibia. All these things you need to look at them. And at the same time, the different farming system, when you find it in a photograph or a picture, make sure that you can able to identify if it's on a farmer is farming on the commercial purposes or is on the subsistence purposes. Then we look at the settlement. The settlements that we are having here, it is being reflected on the rural and the urban settlement. For example, it has to do with the layout of our rural and the urban settlement, how they developed, how are they being sustained, and how this rural or urban settlement developed into informal settlement, for example, and why do they have to develop into informal settlement, the growth of towns and the cities, how does it put the countryside in danger, so does the fourth. That's what you have to look at a settlement. And you must also understand those reasons of why people have to move to either urban or rural area and the settlements, and the layout of towns, streets of a certain country or a certain town. How does it allows the flow of traffics during rush hours and at the time that, for example, people are in their offices working. And we can also look at how urban settlement, for example, can contribute to pollution. All those things, we should find them under the settlements topic. So the skills that you need to develop here is a skill of using information or describing features that are shown in the photograph. Simple because if we ask you to use that information with the help of a diagram, provide the feature of what, you make sure that you really have to take information from that diagram or from the picture in front of you. And again, when we ask you a question based on a named area of study, make sure that you name the area and make sure that you really answer the question based on the named area that you happen to name, and make sure again that those questions that start with a named area is actually being catered for information that are given in case study, the case study that you find on your study guides. Therefore, be careful whenever topic that you have to study and you came across with a case study, you make sure that you read and understand those case study, because this question of a named area is a question that is always contains the highest mark in your examination paper or your assignment. Therefore, be acquaint yourself with the information that is provided in case study, and under any topic that you have to come across and you are provided with a case study, make sure that you really go through it. Otherwise, you are losing the marks, and at the end of the day, you might end up now failing your own module that you registered for, and you do not want to waste your money like that. By writing your assignment or your examination that are based in the module 2, make sure that you use your study guide that are written school subject that you are provided with by your own institution. Again, if while you are studying you stuck on something, you can always consult me between 5 and 8. I'll be available to answer you, but make sure that I cannot make an assignment, your assignment for you, for example, or providing you answer with your assignment, but I can able to guide you on what to do to come to the right answer. And again, as I said, if you are doing module 2, make sure that there is no question being based either on map work or research. This question is only found on module 1. Again, module 2 is from unit 9 to unit 15. Therefore, I have to close by saying good luck with the preparing of either assignment or your examination. Until we meet again.